A religious billboard in Brunswick is causing some to question the separation of church and state in the city.
Yeah, it says Jesus is Lord, and then you see the names of the mayor, and of course the city council is listed there. Action News Jack's Letitia Variola joins us live in Brunswick. And Letitia, you found out a private citizen put up the billboard with the mayor's blessing.
That's right. No tax dollars were used to put up this religious message here on the billboard, even though you see the mayor's name and the city council there. A local business owner put it up, and now she's feeling some pressure to take it down. Victoria Hightower is a longtime Brunswick business owner. She owns the billboard and the property it stands on. Hightower is proud of her city and its elected officials.
I wanted to honor our mayor, which is a very elegant man, and the city council members are very elegant too.
She's also proud of her faith and thought to combine the two on her billboard. She says she called Mayor Cornell Harvey, who gave her permission to use his name.
I just wanted people to know that God loves them.
However, the billboard is coming down. Hightower says she felt pressure from the city manager to remove it.
He had some calls, and there were some issues with some people that they didn't want it up, and something called separation of church and state.
I went to City Hall and asked the mayor, why give the green light only to have your city manager say it should come down? He told me he didn't know his city manager made that call.
I haven't talked with Ms. Hightower about it. I haven't talked to the city manager about it either.
He also responded to criticism from people who think the government shouldn't intertwine itself with religion.
I'm not trying to make any kind of statement. I'm just saying that, welcome to Brunswick.
I see.
And it just so happened that I am a Christian.
He also apologizes to anyone who is offended and said that all faiths are welcome here in Brunswick.
Members of the Satanic Temple hung out on their front porch with a camera crew from an online channel, but said they were not available to talk to us.
I apologize, guys.
The group says its new headquarters will open to the public as the Salem Art Gallery, featuring exhibits, lectures, and film screenings. How did they seem to you?
Oh, they seem like normal people.
Mike Lester, who lives nearby, stopped to chat with his new neighbors and said he plans to be back.
Oh, I'm going to go in and see what it looks like, yes.
Are you intrigued?
Yes, I'm very interested to see what it's all about.
According to the Satanic Temple's website, the group is all about religious pluralism. Its mission statement to encourage benevolence and empathy among all people, reject tyrannical authority, advocate practical common sense, and promote justice.
Holy Mary, Mother of God.
2 years ago, the Satanic Temple sparked protest in Oklahoma City when it held a black mass. Later, the group tried to have a 7.5-foot bronze goat-headed statue placed next to a Ten Commandments monument outside the Oklahoma State Capitol. The group says it's now brought that statue to Salem.
I don't agree with that at all. So that could be a problem. That could cause a big problem around here.
Gulf has that sort of like almost kitschy but angelic kind of high Renaissance. They're taking a lot of time and making, of course, Halloween's very busy.
A so-called after-school Satan club proposed by the Satanic Temple of Seattle to be held at Centennial Elementary School should be allowed to proceed, an attorney hired to represent the Mount Vernon School District said. I think that if the school district denied that application, you would face costly litigation that would be distracting from your mission, said Duncan Phobes of the Seattle-based law firm Patterson, Buchanan, Phobes and Leach during a Wednesday meeting of the Mount Vernon School Board. You don't have to sponsor the group. You don't have to help the group. A 2001 Supreme Court ruling, Good News Bible Club versus Milford Central School District, stated that if schools allow any organization to use school property, they must allow all organizations, religious and secular, to have access. The Mount Vernon district is one of 9 throughout the country that has been chosen by the Satanic Temple to host a pilot after-school Satan Club program because the districts also host a Good News Bible Club, which is run by the Child Evangelism Fellowship.
Ireland has some of the strictest regulations in the world. The country's Prime Minister, Enda Kenny, will be organizing a citizens' meeting to vote on whether abortion should be made more accessible. However, many believe it should automatically be made available. Protesters began marching outside of the Dublin buildings in Dublin, chanting and holding picket signs saying, "My body, my choice." One attendee, Sal Roche, brought her 2-year-old son. The 42-year-old dance teacher said it's a woman's right to choose, and it is ridiculous to say that anybody else, the state or the church, has the right to tell that woman what happens to her body.
Students at the University of Vermont are showing their support for the protests going on there. But as Local 22's Sarah McCluskey tells us, some people have mixed feelings about how they're doing it.
Walking around the University of Vermont campus in Burlington Friday, you may have noticed something new flying high.
I think it's a powerful statement.
The Student Government Association decided this week to raise a Black Lives Matter flag outside of the Davis Center, the heart of the campus. The Black Lives Matter movement has grown momentum across the nation, trying to raise awareness about racial issues. SGA is sponsoring the flag over the weekend to recognize recent police shootings in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Charlotte, North Carolina. School officials say this flagpole has historically flown flags to support members of the community. The university says it supports free expression, and other university groups are welcome to propose flags with information that they wish to express. Freshman Caroline Slack says it's important the school is supporting the students' political beliefs.
Also, since it is a primarily white university, it's important that the students of color are being shown that they are cared for and they are welcome here.
But others disagree with the decision. Viewers commented on Facebook saying they think all lives matter in Vermont and that it's inappropriate to have an organization's flag at the same height as the nation's flag.
A 20-year-old Turkish immigrant has been arrested over a gun attack at a U.S. shopping mall that left 5 people dead. It came a day after a manhunt was launched for a suspect following Friday night shooting in Burlington in Washington state.
Around 6:30 this evening, the individual was taken into custody. And his name is Arkan Satin.
Legally resident in the U.S., he was identified as a suspect and captured walking down a street in Oak Harbor, his home community some 50 kilometers away. The motive for the shooting in a department store is unknown.
Staying in the U.S., several people have been wounded during a shooting in the state of Maryland. Police in a statement said the incident took place in an eastern district of the city of Baltimore on Saturday night. Police said 3 suspects shot and injured at least 8 civilians using a shotgun and handguns. A 3-year-old child was among the injured. According to the police, the shooters are at large. The cops have cordoned off the scene of the shooting.
The 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda makes clear there cannot be development without peace and security. And disarmament is integral to achieving peace and security. Weapons fuel the fires of conflict. They are a major driver of violent deaths and an underlying cause of instability. Weapons destroy lives and livelihoods. The number of conflict deaths more than tripled between 2008 and 2014 to 180,000. When explosive weapons are used in conflict, 90% of casualties are civilians. Disarmament is a core element of the rules-based international order that the UN stands for. The UN's disarmament priorities are simple: to facilitate the international community's efforts to eliminate weapons of mass destruction, and to help bring transparency and regulation to conventional weapons in accordance with the principles of the UN Charter. Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has said the world is overarmed and peace is underfunded. An overarmed world is an unstable and insecure one. Disarmament is critical to creating a safer, more prosperous, more equitable, and more peaceful world.
A powerful explosion has rocked the Hungarian capital, Budapest. Now, Hungary's disaster management agency says at least 2 people have been injured in that blast. Incident took place in the Octagon area of the city center late Saturday. Police and rescue workers have evacuated the nearby shops and cordoned off the area. Cause of the explosion is still unknown.
It's crazy. Man. Crazy. So you smell it? Yeah, you can smell it, man.
Authorities in the Austrian city of Wels have slapped a curfew on young migrants in response to a series of sex attacks at a wine and beer festival. It came after underage asylum seekers from Afghanistan assaulted 17 women at the Welse Volksfest festival. It's just the latest incidents of sexual assault involving refugees. A number of women were assaulted on New Year's Eve in the German city of Cologne. Similar cases were also reported during New Year celebrations in Finland. In Sweden, 5 rape cases and 12 sexual assaults were reported at a summer music festival, with up to 35 sexual molestation complaints filed against foreign young men. Last summer in Denmark, refugees were charged with raping and groping women. The mayor of the Austrian city of Wels told us what he thinks needs to be done.
To deal with sexual violence in the long term, we have to take some very important measures. First of all, we have to increase the number of the police officers, and furthermore, we have to coordinate the private security with the police forces. We also think about more police in plain clothes.
As the relentless migration continues, European Union leaders remain locked in debate in their search for a solution. At a summit in Austria this weekend, the focus was on protecting borders and the state of the EU-Turkey deal. Austrian Chancellor Christian Kern.
We need control over our external borders. We have to decide who comes to Europe and not the trafficking organizations. That is the most important principle.
They also discussed the Balkans route, which Austria and others have largely shut down this year, leaving thousands stranded in Greece. Some countries have agreed to resettle those in Greece, but it is still a work in progress. German Chancellor Angela Merkel.
Given that there are so many refugees with us, of course, all member states must be on board, not only those that are on the Balkan route. But we have our responsibility to take our part of the 160,000 from Turkey that we agreed to take.
And it's a responsibility that, like the crisis itself, won't be ending anytime soon.
The death toll for multiple terrorist attacks in the Iraqi province of Salahuddin has now risen to 18. 5 security personnel and 2 young civilians were killed when a gunman opened fire on them at a checkpoint north of the city of Tikrit Saturday morning. Police forces managed to kill the assailant. Separately, 2 bomb attacks at the entrance to Tikrit also claimed the lives of at least 11 people and wounded over 20 others. The Dutch terrorist group has claimed responsibility for the assaults. Violence has been the first of its kind since April of 2015, when the Iraqi government forces purged the city of Takfiri terrorists.
The death toll in Aleppo is said to have risen above 200 in just 2 days, provoking France, the US and the UK to call for an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council, diplomats say. United Nations Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon has said he's appalled by the chilling military escalation in Syria's largest city, where government troops supported by Russia are battling the US-backed rebel forces currently in control of the east. The offensive has further dashed hopes of re-establishing a ceasefire that crumbled on Monday, despite an assertion by Russia that the US has apologized for possibly striking Syrian troops in a deadly raid against the ISIL militant group earlier this month. The US claims the troops were unintentionally targeted. However, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said it was hard to believe coalition intelligence could forget the positions and locations of troops.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is accused of Pakistan of trying to destabilize Asia by exporting terrorism. Modi made that remark in his first speech since 18 soldiers were killed in an attack on an Indian army base in Kashmir. He claims that Indian security forces have killed 10 terrorists in Kashmir who crossed a ceasefire line from Pakistan over the past 4 months. Now, Modi added that terrorist attacks in Bangladesh and Afghanistan are also being instigated from Pakistan. Indian Premier vowed to work toward isolating Islamabad internationally. India blames Pakistan for a fatal attack on an army base in Indian-controlled Kashmir last Sunday. Pakistan has denied any involvement in that attack. Pakistan's foreign ministry also said an official statement will be released later in reaction to Modi's comments.
Pakistan and Russia have begun their first ever joint military exercise. It is being held in Pakistan and will involve about 200 military personnel from both sides. Moscow and Islamabad aim to consolidate and develop bilateral military cooperation. India has expressed its concerns about the joint exercise. Its Ministry of External Affairs earlier had also reportedly urged Russia to reconsider the decision to halt the drill. However, the exercise kicked off as scheduled and is expected to finish on October 7th.
Item 127, missile suspension released. Item 128, launcher closure door open.
Item 128, launcher closure door open. Item 129, first stage ignition.
Well, back with the DPRK, its first international air show is underway at a newly upgraded airport in the eastern city of Wonsan. The city's Kalmar International Airport was redesigned and reconstructed from a military airfield. Most planes on display were made by Russia.
A senior US official has stated that there will be no more negotiations about the deployment of the THAAD missile defense system in South Korea. US Assistant Secretary of State Daniel Russell says the decision has been reached and THAAD will be deployed to the south as planned. His comments quash speculation that Seoul and Washington could modify their plans to induce cooperation from China to enforce tougher sanctions on its longtime ally, North Korea. Russell also said the US is confident a new UN resolution would be adopted against Pyongyang, imposing new sanctions and tightening existing ones. He added that the new punitive measures would be aimed at preventing North Korea from further developing its nuclear weapons program.
Muslims accounted for a third of those killed in France's July the 14th terror attack, and as Pope Francis received grieving families and survivors of the Nice lorry massacre, different religions were represented. All offered the same comfort from the head of the Roman Catholic Church. There was also the same message. Francis urged those who he said were attacked by the demon to respond with forgiveness, love and respect for your neighbour, rather than giving in to hatred and violence.